Warning, there are people pretending to be me in the comments. This is what a comment from me looks like. Notice that the name is spelled perfectly, and notice the border around the name. That's how you know it's from me. You can also click on my name to make sure you actually go to my channel to double check. And this is what a comment from an imposter will look like. It has weird characters in the name or comment, and it's usually going to ask you to add them on WhatsApp or Telegram. I don't have WhatsApp or Telegram, and I would never ask you to add me on there. Alright, so please be careful, use your common sense, and now let's get back to the video. Hey, how's it going, GPU heads? Thanks for clicking on my video. 𝗧-𝗦𝗧𝗦 here. And guys, we're gonna do two things in this video. First of all, we're gonna select all of the winners for the Octominer giveaway that we launched a couple weeks ago. So stay tuned for that. That's gonna be spliced in throughout this video. And what you have to do if you win is DM Octominer on Twitter, and they'll sort you out in terms of, you know, you giving them your delivery address for your price and stuff like that. And I reckon if they haven't heard from you within a week or so, they'll probably try to reach out to you in order to get that information so they can send you your price that you want. But the whole meat and potatoes of this very long video is going to be a massive interview that I did with 𝗤𝗓𝗓 and Harry from Octominer. And what I did was I took questions from you guys and I asked you, what are some things you want to find out about the Octominer that I reviewed a couple weeks back here on the channel? And basically, I just asked them all of those questions from you guys, and it was a really good and informative conversation. So what I figured I would do is just let you listen in on the whole thing, because I learned a lot personally, and I thought that you guys will learn a lot too. And yeah, like I said, it was a really interesting conversation. So without further ado, let's hop into the conversation with 𝗤𝗓𝗓 and Harry from Octominer. All right, so I'm here with 𝗤𝗓𝗓 and Harry from Octominer. If you guys would like to just super quickly introduce yourselves.
Hello.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, you go ahead then, please.
Okay. I'm 𝗤𝗓𝗓, and I am the operations manager for Octominer. I joined part-time last summer and then came on board full-time recently, and I oversee a lot of our support department, our shipping for our parts warehouse in the US, partnerships for our social media, YouTube, and yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm Harry. I'm the CTO of Octominer and one of the co-founders. Been with the company since the beginning, and founded it with my group here. We're a group of hardware enthusiasts based in Shenzhen, China, but most all of us are actually from Northern Europe. And we started this venture because we wanted the best mining rig possible, and what was available in the market didn't satisfy our needs. So we are kind of obsessive when it comes to quality, so we got down to making our own to make the best that's possible. And now we've been doing it over 4 years. I'd say we're probably the market leaders for European and North American market when it comes to closed GPU mining rigs, closed case GPU mining rigs. And we work with several of the biggest mining farms around the world. We are also an official AMD blockchain partner, and AMD's blockchain team contacts us for large-scale deployments when they need mining rigs. We are actually their preferred partner to work with. And yeah, we have been doing it for a while, and we plan to keep doing this, improving our products, and doing it as best as we can. Though I think we've kind of maxed out on how good we can make a GPU mining rig. So I'm not sure if we have too many updates or developments coming anymore regarding just regular GPU mining rigs. But we are also branching out to fully blown enterprise grade servers with AMD EPYC CPUs, where we have PCIe Gen 4 support, also PCIe Gen 5 support that we're working on, which is upcoming with the newer AMD EPYC CPUs coming out later in this year. So we are gonna be branching out that actually into a new brand as well. But yeah, that's the small intro. Got a little bit long.
Excellent. So lots of exciting stuff on the horizon, it seems, for you guys. And Basically, we're together here to answer a bunch of questions I got from my viewers about your products. So should we just jump into it?
Absolutely.
Cool. So the main question I got, probably 70% of the questions were, is there a way to buy just one or a couple of your Octominer server cases?
Yep, I'll go ahead and answer this one. So yes, there is. Right now we have 2 online resellers for retail. 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏.com handles our US retail distribution and reseller for hardware. And then we also have Octominer EU that services the European market. So each website allows you to purchase a minimum order quantity of 1, and you can add on to that. So there is an option for users that do not want to purchase from our website, Octominer.com. So we provide several options that hopefully will cater to whatever region that they're in.
Excellent. So that kind of answers a upcoming question I have too, which is what is the difference between Octominer.com and Octominer.eu?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So Octominer.eu is an independent company from us. It's operated by Computer Labs, Ltd in Estonia. They are our distributor, official distributor in the Baltic states region, and they have exclusive resale rights for the Estonian market. But they also sell, to the whole of Europe, and they also carry stock in Estonia, so they can offer pretty fast fulfillment times inside of Europe. And they are an official distributor from us, but they are a different company in that sense.
Okay.
And they don't have any minimum purchase limit. So if you want to buy, 1 rig or 2 rigs, you can do it through them. And if you're inside of the EU, you should receive it roughly within a week usually, if they have stock ready there, which usually they do.
Cool. So there, I've heard there's also something coming up end of March. Is that right, Chili?
Yes. Yep. So at the end of March, we're going to have the last 2 days scheduled out, and we'll make an announcement on this probably later this week on social media and our blog. But we will go ahead and we have this scheduled once per quarter. We did a live stream during Christmas, and we committed to providing the community one time frame per quarter where we would lower the minimum order quantity to 1. So it would go ahead and kind of serve the people that want to order from our website the ability to order just a single unit or under 5. So that will be coming up, and I know a lot of people have been asking about that. So we are excited to finally get that scheduled and be able to provide that.
And that is on your official Octominer.com website, is that right?
Correct.
All right, let's start picking the winners. So we are giving away 10 swag bags, 2 Octominer X8s and 2 Octominer X12s. So let's start by picking the first swag bag winner here. I have the video where you had to comment to be entered into the giveaway. I'm filtering duplicate users, so if you commented more than once, still just counts as 1 entry. We're including replies because I saw some people reply to my comment rather than post their own comment. So if you did that, you'll still be a valid entry. And I'm filtering for the magic word, which is kiwi. So let's get the comments here. And let's pick our first winner. Well, potential winner. We still need to double check that you're following Octominer on Twitter, but all right. So we have Aspiring Souls. Congratulations. Another question I got here was about you don't ship to certain countries and things like that, but I'm pretty sure you ship worldwide, don't you?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. That's correct. We do ship worldwide, but there are certain countries that we don't ship to because of limitation when it comes to importing goods. Let's say as an example, Brazil. We have shipped there in the past, but we just stopped shipping, because it's a market where, people buy and then they can't, get the customs clearance done, as they are responsible for that, because just it can be very difficult to do the customs clearance in that country. And then the rig ends up either getting destroyed or sent back, and there's like all kinds of costs related to it. So, I mean, I just took Brazil as an example, but I mean, another like, let's say larger country that we don't ship to, but we have requests from is India. To India, we don't sell for the same reason. Customs are difficult, and India has their own special, like, certification requirements for electronic products, to import. And, that's something that can just add to the complexity of importing it. But to certain, bulk customers from India, we can fulfill their order if, they order, a little bit larger quantity, and they have their own shipping agent that takes care of it. So we just, send it to their shipping agent, and they will take care of the import process. And then we will not be liable, if they cannot handle the customs clearance, as, everything is, loud and clear in the sense that they are responsible for that.
Interesting. Okay, that clears things up. So, yeah, speaking of that, another question here was, looking into the future, is there something on the horizon for you guys of possibly setting up local distribution centers, maybe in the US or in Asia or in Europe? Or are you sort of happy with how that works for you right now?
Well, I'll take that if you don't mind, Alex. So, I mean, that's a good question, At the moment, we have, as mentioned before, Octominer EU, operated by Computer Labs in Estonia, who kind of takes care of the local market. And in the US, we have MinerDude, minerdude.com. They carry stock, provide an excellent, service in the sense of the speed and the customer support. So, they are kind of, the local, distributors, agents who can kind of take care of that. And, they are long-term, official distributors and business partners of ours. So also to to protect them, we don't see that we will be carrying stock ourselves in the near future inside of the US or Europe, as they kind of take care of that when it comes to these orders that are less than 10-piece quantity, as we are more like a B2B, business to business focused on Octominer.com, and you have like a 10-piece minimum quantity to purchase. We'd be happy to sell to everybody, ones and twos as well, but just the reality of it is that we're focused on the large scale and business to business, and we just wouldn't be able to fulfill all of those smaller orders in the way that it will be required. And we really make sure that we provide like a top-notch, high-quality product and top-level customer support service as well. And we can do a great job when it comes to our B2B customers who buy the required MOQ, and we really take care of our customer base and take our brand reputation very seriously. So we started out as a retail company, but now we have grown to become kind of like a B2B company, and focus on larger volumes. We can make up to 4,000 or 6,000 mining rigs per month, depending on the model. And we let our distributor partners take care of the smaller retail sales.
Sounds good. So basically the answer is that you're already doing that just through retailers in the shape
yes.
of MinerDude or Octominer.eu. So that's pretty cool.
That is correct. I mean, of course, the prices are a bit higher there versus our website, but you have to take into account as well that they have to stock the goods. They're doing retail, so they have things like credit card chargeback. They have to pay for warehousing, have their own customer support, sales support, shipping support teams. So all of that adds on top of the cost. It's not like we make a lot more money because of that. No, we don't. It's just that when doing retail, there's certain costs that get added to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just simple business, right? Like selling more of an item at one time is going to be more cost effective. So if they have to sell them one at a time, it's just more expensive. That's just how business works. So I think that makes absolutely total sense. All right, let's pick the next winner for another Octominer swag bag. So I'm going to click pick another winner here. And we got Magic Lucky. So let's check that you are actually following Octominer on Twitter. And if you do, congratulations, you're the next winner. One question was, do you ever plan on listing on somewhere like Amazon?
Well, it's it's an interesting question. I've done business on Amazon in the past, and I'd say I'm not gonna list these products probably on Amazon because we wouldn't want to rely on Amazon as our kind of sales channel, because Amazon at any moment can just shut your store down. You might have competitors come leave you bad reviews and so on, and it's like you're out of control for your own for your own Amazon store. So we don't want to rely on that. That's why we focus all of our sales through our own website that we can fully manage, control, and take care of.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think with your product being more focused towards maybe like bigger mining farms and people looking to buy 10 or 20, it makes more sense to sell directly to those people rather than sort of online shoppers going on Amazon looking for a miner case. And you also do cater to those customers just once a quarter with your MOQ going down to 1 for a couple of days each quarter. So I think, that absolutely answers those questions. And let's move on to something else. So I also picked a couple of questions here that I think that I would like to give my opinion on. So one question I have here is Octominer versus open air frame in more extreme ambient temperatures. So for example, how well does an Octominer handle the heat compared to a open air mining frame, like during really hot summer days? And like, I'll give my opinion first, and then feel free to chime in, any of you. What I'll say is, when it comes to cooling your mining rigs, it's more about just removing the heat they produce rather than actually cooling them. And that is what I believe an Octominer does really effectively, in that it's an enclosed space for where you are in complete control of the airflow. So it doesn't matter if your room is 30 degrees Celsius or even 40 degrees Celsius, because a GPU kind of can operate at like ambient temperatures like that, as long as they don't get to sit and heat that air up without the heat being extracted out of them. So in my opinion, and what I've seen from running my Octominer, is that it handles heat a lot better than an open air frame does. So that is my experience in terms of Octominer versus open air rig for heat management, basically. Do you guys have anything additional to share there?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, perhaps, before switching over to Octominer, Alex is a mining enthusiast as well, and, has a pretty decent, setup in his garage. You can perhaps share your experience also, moving from open air to closed Octominer cases.
Yeah, so I started off in January of 2021 getting really into the GPU mining. I started off with just a few 5700 XTs, and I had them open rig too. I had a little frame I bought off eBay, and I built that up to about 10, 12 5700s. Then here in Houston, it's insanely hot and we have humidity, and my garage doesn't have a window or an exterior door to the outside. I just have the powered garage door. So literally, I learned very quickly that garage heats up, because I was always just having the garage shut. And man, so in the beginning of the summer, I would crack it, and then that would kind of be the in and outtake, and it worked for a little bit. So, and those 5700s, they run really hot. And so I learned as I went about, messing. I mean, they're super sensitive with the OC, and they're overheating and throttling and stuff. So when
Alex is in Texas, so it's always hot there.
Oh yeah, it's true. So our air in our garage was humid. I have a 2 large box fans blowing in and out of the garage. Then when I started and I came board on Octominer and received my first X12, I had moved all of those 5700s to that rig, and it really helped to move the airflow with the 3000 or 3200 RPM, and it does something like, something crazy, the CFM it moves. So they really dropped, and you're absolutely right, Seb, that the temperature, it can operate at ambient temperatures in the air around it, but it really matters of how much airflow is going over the card, going in and out of the if you have a blower style or the cooling. So I saw immediate change in the temperatures, and they dropped, and I saw the rig didn't restart as much. It was a lot more stable. So I really had a good experience for my own personal use of the server style cases versus open air rigs, with them being a lot more successful for me. So that was something I really appreciate about the build quality and the engineering. And that might be something a lot of people don't know, is we actually engineer all of our own stuff in-house, and we blueprint it up for production. And we take a lot of time into coming up with kind of the dimensions and all of the specs for each model unit we sell.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah, but that makes sense, because there's nothing that looks quite exactly like an Octominer. So yeah, I can believe that for sure.
If you want to achieve, the best quality, you cannot rely on, outsourcing when it comes to, engineering, final production, and, all of that. When we started out this company, we certainly relied more on, outside efforts. But now, as, we've grown, over the years, and we went through so many, revisions and improvements on our hardware and cases, getting feedback from the community, from our large scale, clients who have big mining farms, and just, taking their feedback and constantly, improving and innovating. We understood how important it is to keep, as much as possible in-house when it comes to, engineering, production, and quality control. So, if you look at it, it's a simple thing, essentially it's just a metal case, with some fans and a motherboard in it, and you can certainly buy, cheaper versions on Alibaba that look similar, but, it's not the same thing, in the sense that, most of those Alibaba sellers, they're not actually even real producers. They buy, this and that, slap it all together and sell it. They don't even mind themselves. And what they do is they just get the cheapest of everything. When, over these years, I've visited maybe 20, 30, fan factories, metal fabrication factories, cable factories, just, picking kind of the best partners to work with. And as well as, certain things just, producing in our own, manufacturing facility. Every component that we make, we have, hand-picked all of the components. When it comes to that, you take a fan, what do you think? You take, our fan, you take a competing fan. They might look the same on the outside, but actually all of the components have different levels of quality. In China, you can make things extremely cheap, but if you make things cheap, they're cheap for a reason. They're cheap because, they use low quality, components. For example, the plastic, the fan blades will break easier. They use Chinese bearings that might already be, rusted. Before the fans even ship out, we use Japanese bearings on all of our fans. The fan, PCBs, what kind of, chips they use to control the fan speed. Just as an example, when you take, a fan, to compare competing offers, and how we really went in depth with each of these components to kind of, find, the best solutions.
Okay, let's pick the next winner of another Octominer swag bag. So I'm gonna hit pick another winner here, and we'll see who it picks. All right, we got 𝗧-𝗦𝗪𝗧𝗦, possibly, that's how you pronounce it, sorry if not. And yeah, we'll just double check that you are following Octominer on Twitter, and you're our next winner. I think something that that really sets you apart as well, and something I was really impressed with, is that you offer a 1-year international warranty on your server cases.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the warranty is something, we take very seriously. So we offer, yes, a 1-year international warranty in all our cases. It's actually, a real 1-year warranty, not like, if you buy from, some resellers who, once they end up, shipping out, the product from China, you will get no support. They'll tell you, send me the product back to China and, we'll repair it. But the thing is, you cannot even send used electronics back to China because of the e-recycling laws you have here. So actually that case, or hardware or power supply or whatever component it is, it's almost impossible to return to China. So all of these, other, Chinese suppliers, you might say, that might be able to sell you a cheaper product, they essentially have no warranty. They have no support for you pretty much, and we take our warranty very seriously. So we have standard 1-year warranty. And for some of our large scale customers who order, cases by the thousands, we offer them as well an optional 2-year warranty upgrade package, because we're confident in, our product quality and we know it lasts. Over my time here in Shenzhen, I mean, I'm actually from Europe myself, as is most of, the Octominer, senior staff, if you might say it, and our partners. We're, from Northern Europe, from Canada, from the US, we have an engineering team in Germany. So we really take our quality seriously. And, most of those cheap Chinese rigs, I mean, I've talked to several, factory owners and bosses, who make components and so on. And when they make, the low cost, components for the cheap Alibaba rigs, they literally say they make the power supplies only to last like half a year, maybe 1 year, and I've seen it myself as well. I mean, mining from big mining farms before, maybe, going to use our products, they buy just, generic, cheap Chinese mining rigs. And what happens is they end up getting a batch and, maybe 20%, maybe 30%, but I've even seen up to as much as 50% of the rigs having, a mixed bag of failures already within the first few months, Usually it's the power supplies that end up blowing up, sometimes taking GPUs with them, it's the fans, instantly failing. And these are products that don't have any warranty either. I mean, we have failures as well, sometimes, but we take care of them, and the failure percentages are very low, I mean, everything, when it comes to power delivery, actually an interesting topic, if I might add, is the 3.3 volt, power delivery, and the general, how much per slot, per PCIe slot, you have like power delivery on the motherboard. Many of those generic Chinese rigs, actually, they are not even up to spec to support GPUs like the new NVIDIA A2000, which pulls 75 watts from the PCIe slot, which is, the maximum rating based on the PCIe spec. Any other GPU will never pull as much. Most GPUs pull between, 15 to 40 watts, maximum, usually, around the 20, watts, something like that. And when you put, a rig that's not properly designed, you put it full of A2000s, what happens is it ends up, burning out the power delivery components, to the PCIe slot, because it's not designed to handle it. So when we design things, we make sure everything is designed up to spec and then over spec to make sure, it lasts a long time and it's the best as it can be made.
Yeah, and that is something, I guess, if you watch my channel, I'm really big on safety when it comes to how to just set your mining operation up, because I think, it doesn't matter how many megahash you get or whatever if your house burns down, right? And I think that is something that you just get that sense of security opening up an Octominer and just looking at the components in there. And something that that really speaks to that too is that you use proper name brand server power supplies in your server cases. Like, it comes with the proper HP server power supplies, and I mean, that is just right off the bat a very good sign for how much that you put effort into quality components. All right, so let's pick our next winner for an Octominer swag bag. So let's pick another winner here. All right, 𝗦𝗡𝗥𝗧𝗦. If you follow Octominer on Twitter, you are our next winner for an Octominer swag bag. And I just wanted to dive in a little bit deeper on warranty. So how does the warranty sort of process look? So let's say I have an Octominer, and by, let's say, freak accident, something breaks. Do you ship me a replacement part, or do I send it in to you, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so with that, each case varies. So if you have something, so I'll kind of back up. So there's usually, it falls under a couple categories. One, if something could be damaged during shipment, we cover really everything. So even if it's the carrier's fault, we will work with the customer to either do a partial refund, or if it's really bad enough, we'll go ahead and send either a replacement part. I've even sent replacement units to something. So I know, for a really good example is 𝗦𝗡𝗥𝗏𝗏 had one that we had shipped him, and either during shipment, one of, I think the PCIe slots just totally busted. And at that time, I didn't have a part at our warehouse just to instantly ship him, because we were still growing our US parts warehouse availability for stock. So I went ahead and shipped him. He had ordered the X8 Ultra when we were still manufacturing that. Right now it's discontinued and replaced by the X8 Plus. So I went ahead and upgraded and just sent him a brand new unit, because it was going to take longer for me to get that part in stock than to send him a replacement unit. Now that's sort of an extreme case, but usually it's if something happens, either I've had people that mess around with the power supplies and they'll fail, or one of them just doesn't boot up or turn on. So we will diagnose with our support team of the cause and try to narrow it down with videos or photos. And if we need to, we will send a replacement part, because we don't really accept returns. Like Carrie said, we will not ask you to ship anything back to us. We will troubleshoot it first and send you the replacement part free of charge. So we don't charge for that. So we try to cover as much as we can and feel that we really want to provide a good experience for our audience and customers.
Yeah, that sounds like you're really... oh, sorry, go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, for us, the most important thing is, to make sure that the customer is absolutely, happy and satisfied. And, throughout our 4.5 years that we've been in business now, and I'm not sure what's the total amount exactly of mining, rigs we've sold, but it's over like 40,000, I think, by now. The total net, Ethereum hash rate, I think around 3% of the total net Ethereum hash rate is running on Octominer mining rigs. So, that says a lot, and we make sure all customers are happy. And throughout all of this time, we have not had a single customer who has returned an Octominer rig saying, I don't like it, I want my money back, I'm going to send it back to you. 0 customers. Yes, there have been cases, failures, maybe, fan failure, maybe a power supply here and there fails. This is normal. Big brands like Asus and stuff, Gigabyte, if you look at what kind of power supply fiascos, they've had recently, where they've, sent out whole batches where everything fails. Our failure rates are extremely low. So once in a while, sending, spare parts here and there, we keep all our customers happy. And throughout all of this time, we have not had a single customer who has not been happy with our product. So, that's quite a statement.
Yeah, wow, that absolutely is. Okay, let's pick our 5th winner of another Octominer swag bag. And that's Carlos Valdez. So, congratulations. As long as you follow Octominer on Twitter, you are the next winner. I figured let's move on to, I have a few questions here that are more just like rapid fire questions. And some of them are a bit more for fun, but I thought I should still include them because they are questions from my audience. So it's stuff they wanted to know. So the first one here is, someone wanted to know the difference in power consumption between just a regular open air rig and a Octominer. And to that, I first of all wanted to say, did you even watch my previous video on the Octominer? Because I tested exactly that, and the Octominer ended up pulling, I think, around, it was something like 20 or 40 watts less than an open air rig with the exact same GPUs in it. So the Octominer is definitely a more efficient way to go, and that's including the fans that are on the server case, and they were running at a pretty high speed when I did that test too. So Octominer are definitely more efficient electricity-wise than a open air rig. Okay, actually, that's a question I have for you. Where does that power saving come from? Because my guess would be maybe a combination of the platinum rated power supplies and just maybe a lower wattage CPU compared to like a normal ATX motherboard Intel CPU combo, or do you guys have any, where's that coming from?
Yeah, so okay, I mean, let's say if we take an example, if the CPUs are same, same kind of CPUs in both rigs, same amount of GPUs, in the sense that, let's say you compare a comparable open air rig to our Octominer closed case, and they have the same CPU and the same GPUs, it's very likely that our case will still draw less power. And the power saving, they come from a few different things. First of all, we use platinum rated power supplies, and the power supplies actually run very cool, even if they run at 100%, because of how we have designed the layout and how actually the 140 millimeter case fans provide additional airflow to the power supplies. It makes them run very efficient. If you run these power supplies and you don't have any additional airflow on them, you'll have the small little fan inside there spin up quite high. Our cases, it doesn't happen. You don't hear like a really high frequency, fan sound. You don't hear that. You'll hear, like a hum, perhaps like not very loud even from the large case fans, and that's it, So there's one point where comes the efficiency saving. Our PSUs are platinum rated. Secondly, our PSUs run cool. Now, where the third saving will come from is that the GPUs themselves, they run cooler. So when you have cool GPUs, you have cool power delivery components on them. And when power delivery components are cool, their efficiency rating is much higher. If the GPU is hot, all of, the VRMs, and the different power delivery components on them, they get hot and they lose their efficiency ratings, and that ends up, wasting more power. So there's like one point. Third point might be cabling, depending on the kind of open air rig you use or the cables you have. We have actual real 18 gauge cables, which many, people ask about, oh, but I want 16 gauge upgrade, something like that. 18 gauge, this is something we've spec'd out. We have the spec sheets for everything. Our cables are real 18 gauge, tinned copper cables, which, these are how they're supposed to be made. And based on their ratings, each of these cables, can handle like 324 watts, because, each of the terminals, the gold-plated terminals, are rated for 9 amperes per circuit. One 6-pin PCIe cable has 3 circuits. 3 times, the ground and the 12 volt. So, that's 27 amperes, and times, 12 volts, that's 324 watts. Now, that's what one cable can handle. But the cable handling, the PCIe plug rating on the GPU side is calculated differently. Why it's calculated differently is because the GPU PCB is hot usually. And when it's hot, you have to derate the rating of the connector. And that's why, when you see manufacturers, they say like a PCIe, 8-pin, max rating is, I think, 150 or 200 watts, something like that. It's because the GPU side of it is hot. It's connected to the hot, GPU PCB, and all the heat from there transfers into the connector as well, and that's why you have to derate it. But the other side that plugs into our power delivery backplane, which is a 4-ounce backplane, it's very cool. It doesn't heat up. It's always at ambient temperature. It has extra airflow coming in from the case fans as well, and due to that, it's actually, rated to the maximum, rating, which is 324 watts per single 6-pin PCIe cable. And we use, proper 18 gauge cable to go with it, which the rating is based on. If you use 16 gauge, you only gain half an ampere, which is around, 6 watts more than per connector, which is, not much, actually 6 times 3, so it's 18 watts more. And based on the rating, the power supplies and the GPUs used, our cables are actually still over-spec'd even with the 18-gauge cables. So this is another part where some power saving comes from. Our power delivery backplane is cool. Our cables are properly sized. We work very closely with the cable factories. We always have our quality inspectors at the factories, making sure, everything is done according to the spec. We have, gold-plated pins inside of the cables as well, which increase the efficiency. And that's like, I'd say probably the last point where you get some savings, and perhaps the fans as well. Actually, the fans is another part. We have 140 millimeter fans. You can run them actually at pretty low RPMs. They move a lot of air. And due to that, a 140 millimeter fan is always more efficient than a 120 millimeter fan. Yes, at max RPM, it will consume more power, but it will push much more air as well. But for most, cases, even 3080s, running them at 230 watts, you can easily dial down the case fans to 40%. They'll run at 2000 RPM, and they take per fan like less than 10 watts, something like that. So very, very efficient. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of got into a very long answer here. But yeah, when it comes to that, we've thought through each of the components, and this is kind of the breakdown of, where the power savings come from, and how we've designed it so to save the maximum amount of power. And that's actually something our smart watchdog and fan controller does as well. Connected with HiveOS, it reads the GPU temperatures. You can set the optimal, temperature range for your GPUs. Let's say you put it that you want the core between 50 and 60 degrees. Then the case fans will regulate themselves and, keep them at the lowest possible RPM to meet your target temperature for your core temperature that you set in HiveOS then. So that's just another thing on top. That's more like a smart feature, software related, but it definitely helps save a decent amount of power, especially if you have a big mining farm with thousands of rigs. Saving 50 watts per rig, you're saving a lot of money on the electricity and the power costs.
Yeah, and small savings like that could also mean a big difference in terms of if mining profitability really tanks. It might be those 50 watts that still puts you into profitable territory in terms of mining, or pushes you over the edge of actually not being profitable anymore. So I definitely think efficiency is a really important factor, and I was really actually surprised with how much less electricity the Octominer did pull compared to the open air frame I compared it to. And let's pick the next winner for another Octominer swag bag. So hit pick another winner here. And that's 𝗧-𝗦𝗪𝗧𝗦, maybe? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. And yeah, we're gonna check that you are following Octominer on Twitter, and you're the next winner. So speaking of the fans, another question here was how noisy the fans are. And so I'll give my experience, and then you guys can chime in if you have anything to add to that. But basically, just going by ear and standing in the same room, up to about 65-70% on the fans, it's not louder than a regular open air frame would be. That's the same to me, for what I could hear. Going over 70, so when you're into 80-90% fan territory, that is when the noise starts to okay, now this is loud, right? But then again, I don't see you if you put the server case in an environment where it can breathe healthily, I don't see why you would be able to run it higher than 70%. Unless maybe you stuff it full of really thick 3090s or something like that.
You're absolutely correct here on that part, that when the case fans are around the 75% mark, the amount of noise it makes is roughly comparable, the same as just a regular open air rig, and that's taking into account the fans are running at 75%. Usually, you can run the fans, in 40 to 60 degrees range, in which case you will be less noisy. And when you run the fans at 40%, I would say, the case makes very little amount of sound. It makes the same amount of sound probably as a regular computer, like gaming case would make, maybe if you're, maxing out, the GPUs, and, the GPU fans are like, running inside of the case. So it is quite quiet and efficient in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. All right, time to pick the next winner of another Octominer swag bag. So let's hit pick another winner here. And we got 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗔𝗟777. So we're gonna check that you are following Octominer on Twitter, and congratulations, you're the next winner. Just another quick question there I got was, can you combine AMD and Nvidia cards within the same Octominer? And I mean, yeah, yes, the answer.
Yes, you can. So when I moved some of my 5700s over to the X12 last year, I started to accumulate NVIDIA cards. And so I had them in the same rig for several months. Excuse me. Now I have them separated, and then I have one rig that's mixed, and I believe that's on an X12 still as well, the revision 2, I believe. So yeah, there isn't any problem. I know that last year we had put out a BIOS update for the over 10 cards that we had identified and fixed, but that had nothing to do with mixing the rigs with NVIDIA and AMD. So if you guys are wondering if you need compatibility specifications or criteria, you can mix and match and run HiveOS and use different miners on different cards, or run certain miners for both AMD and NVIDIA without any problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the BIOS update Alex mentioned here, that was when the 5700s were relatively new cards, and when using in our X12 Ultra, when using more than 10 cards, the rig would not boot. And this, for this we issued a BIOS update quite quickly. And if some GPUs come that have some compatibility issues, our BIOS engineer team will actively work out the BIOS update, and within a week or maximum 2, we will have added the BIOS support for it. So we constantly make sure that all the GPUs and everything is fully compatible. And mixed NVIDIA AMD rigs, no problem.
That's really cool to hear that you still have active development going on as well. Okay, let's pick another winner for another Octominer swag bag. So let's hit pick another winner here. And we got 𝗧-FPS. So we'll check that you're following Octominer, and if you are, you're the next winner. So congratulations. I have two questions here that I thought we could combine into one, and that is, what is the slot size GPUs that fit into both the X8 and the X12? And as well as a question here was, what is the most cost-efficient GPU to fit in an X12? So I figured I'll start with my experience, which was, I think in the X12, which is the one that I have, you could definitely comfortably fit a 2.5 slot size GPU in there. Anything bigger than that, like a 2.6 might fit, but you're starting to, it's getting a little tight between the GPUs. And in that vein, what GPU would be like the most cost efficient to fit in an X12 is, I mean, it depends a little bit if you're going for just hash rate per watt or hash rate per dollar, right? But I think a really good sort of range there is, if you want to go more hash rate per dollar, 3060s are a really good bet, because the 3 1200 watt power supplies is definitely enough for 12 3060s, even at full TDP on those GPUs. And the 3060s are also really, they are really efficient GPUs. And then if you want to move towards even more efficient GPUs, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more per mega hash, right? But then you're moving to maybe a 3060 Ti or a 3070, which I think would be my personal pick. If I could fill a full Octominer X12 Ultra, I'd love to fill one with 3070s, because I think that is also right at the sweet spot of what the the PSUs can comfortably handle as well. And most 3070s are 2 8-pin power slots on them as well, which is exactly what you get in the X12 Ultra as well. So that is my answer for GPU size and what GPUs kind of, in my opinion, are the best fit for those. But also, I mean, it's totally up to whatever you want to do with it. Like, I've seen people run 6600s in them, which of course, like, is going to be an extremely efficient rig to run. You could run A2000s in there, which is going to be even more efficient, right? And then you don't even need the PCIe cables. You can use those for something else. But yeah, I mean, do you guys have any input there? Well, actually, also, what is the GPU size for the X8? Because I believe that one fits a little bit bigger GPUs, doesn't it?
Yeah, the X8 is up to 65 millimeter thickness for the GPU and up to 330 millimeters length. The X12, and when it comes to slot, that's like 3.2 slot. So,
okay.
You know, all thicker, like, you know, 3 slot GPUs, you know, triple slot ones, they fit nicely, you know, leaving, you know, some room in between for airflow. And that's a really good fit, you know. In the X12, if you put actual like triple slot GPUs, it's gonna be a little bit too tight. You'll have like only, you know, 1 millimeter, you know, room in between. You know, it's actually doable. You can still do it. I even have customers who run like 12, you know, really thick 3090s inside of an X12 with just like 1 millimeter of room in between. And, you know, actually the power supplies can handle it with no problem. The 3600 watt power supply in the X12, you can max it out to 100%, no problem. So, you know, if you max that out to 100%, you know, you have, you know, system overhead, all of that, you know, we can take off like 100 watts for that and divide, you know, the rest with, you know, 12. So you're left with like around 290 watts per GPU. And actually, with the additional cooling those GPUs have from our case fans, we've tested it ourselves as well. And we have customers who run our X12 Ultra that has the 3600 watt combined. They run those sometimes at like 3800, you know, something like that. If they're on 3090s and really like squeeze out like every, you know, extra like, you know, mega hash, you know, hash rate they can get from there, and it works no problem. The only thing is, when you have such a small gap, like, you know, only 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters, then you certainly have to run the case fans at pretty much 100%. And you can still keep, you know, very, you know, reasonable GPU core temperatures, you know, around 65 degrees, you know, something like that. But it's getting tight. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think also if you're looking to build a rig with 3090s, I would probably get the X8 rather than the X12, just to give them that extra bit of room to breathe.
Yeah, the extra bit of room is one thing. Then the second thing is the X8 Ultra Plus, you know, comes with like, you know, 3 PCIe, you know, power cables per GPU. So
yeah, that's right.
Hook up, you know, triple power slot GPUs to there with no problem. And when it comes to spacing, yes, 1 and 2 millimeters is too little spacing, but it's still, you know, doable with our case. But the fans have to be maxed out, and it's not very efficient anymore in that sense. But it's doable, and you can use it safely. No concerns on that. But the optimal amount is, yeah, if you have something around like, you know, perhaps like 4 to 6, you know, 7 millimeters, you know, spacing in between, you know, anything from like 3-4 millimeters is actually enough already, because you don't want actually too much spacing between the GPUs, because then you'd be just wasting the airflow. Essentially, it's, you know, fluid dynamics. If you have a big gap in there, imagine you put, you know, squeeze water through it, you know, the case, I mean, just as an example, and you can already imagine where the water is going to go. It's going to go, you know, to the path of least resistance. It's just going to go through in between. But if it's optimal, you know, spacing, the air, you know, would get, you know, pressed through the heat sinks of the GPUs and works very efficiently. So in that sense, you don't actually need much room between the GPUs when using our cases, you know. So anything from 3 millimeters, you know, gap when you install the GPUs, it's totally fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything now.
Yeah, and when it comes to your GPU question, I pretty much agree. 3070 is a pretty good efficient GPU, 63 megahash roughly at 120 watts. That's a decent efficient GPU. The price to megahash is pretty good. Of course, depending on what price you get it. If you can get cards at the retail price, a 3080 will be a better deal. But nobody sells GPUs at retail price anymore. They're impossible to get.
Fortunately.
Unfortunately, that is the case. Yeah. I mean, we don't sell retail GPUs much. For some of our bulk customers, we do sell GPUs in bulk quantities, and we've been selling a lot of NVIDIA enterprise cards, like the RTX A4000 and A5000, and some of the A2000 as well, because we can sell those cards at their actual face retail value, or maybe even a little bit cheaper. And these are enterprise cards with a 3-year warranty. And customers are actually paying for them what they should pay for them, or maybe even a bit less, because we don't like the idea of scalping prices on GPUs and taking a 3080 and like selling it for $2,000, or now it's a bit less, of course, 1,500, 1,600, whatever. That's just not our business model. I don't feel comfortable doing that. And actually,
then you don't need to rely on that, because you have a great product already that you can sell.
Exactly. But there's still our bulk customers ask us for help to help them source GPUs, and we have pretty good relationship with Nvidia and very good relationship with AMD directly as well. And we do source GPUs for bulk customers as well. The RTX 2060 Super with Samsung memory is actually a pretty good card as well. That can do 44 megahash at around like 110, 120 watts, if tuned properly. And the price of those is pretty reasonable as well. That's a pretty good option as well, I would say, if there is available.
Those are really good on Flux as well, so that's something to look forward to.
Nice.
To a potentially post ETH merge territory, right? Okay, time to pick another winner for another Octominer swag bag. So let's hit pick another winner, and we got 𝗦𝗪𝗪𝗏. Hope I pronounced that right. You are another winner in case you follow Octominer on Twitter. I have another question here that is related to airflow, which is something that I have no experience about, and it's about Founders Editions cards. I think the question was specifically about 3080 Ti's Founder Edition, but apparently they have quite a weird sort of cooling setup, and the question was just, do they work well being in a server case like the Octominer? So I'm going to pass that on to you guys.
I'll jump on this real fast. Most of my cards are Founder Editions. I have an X12 that has 11 3080 Founder Editions in it, and it cools awesome. I have the fans around, I think, 70 or 75%, and let me just pull it up real fast. Right now they're doing 212 watts, 220, 213. They're cool. The temperatures are all under 50 degrees, so they run very well. Yeah. And this is in my garage that doesn't have like the best cooling. So
you're in your garage right now? Just
yeah, so I have 5 cases. I have 2 X12s and 2 X12s, 2 X8 Ultras, and 1 X8 Plus. I also have a complete 3070 Founders Edition running in the X8 Ultra. And then I have a full complete X8 Plus running A2000s, and none of those go over 70 watts for each PCIe slot. So I have a pretty good setup. I just like to collect Founder Edition cards. I've definitely paid for them, but I really love how. The reason why I went after those is because of their slim profile design. I have several EVGA 3080s for the win. Those things are huge. They're really wide. And so I've had to put those kind of in the mix rig. But the ones that have all Founder Editions, I mean, there's so much room in there. And plus, I feel like the dual fans on some of the 3080 blower style ones for Found FE cards, they really take the airflow well and just push it out of the X8, all of our models basically. So I would definitely say that the 3080 series, I have a 3080 Ti to gaming rig here in my office that is not in our case, but those cards are awesome, and so they do really well with cooling too. I know that another YouTuber posted a video recently about one of the 3090s had some issues with the slots and the screws. So another thing I want to just let the audience know, Seb, is that we're constantly making revision changes to our packaging, some of the engineering to our boards, the screw slots and stuff, the positioning. I know that 𝗥𝗏𝗏𝗔𝗟 just did a super in-depth review of all of our units, and so there was some takeaways from that. And also just the great review you did of just comparing open air frames to the X12 rig that you have. So we take all of that, like I watch it, I report back to our team, and there's even some improvements that we're putting into our next batch that came from the YouTube influencers and the audience. And so that really helps us craft and produce just a better project incrementally, because we can't know every single thing when we manufacture these. So which isn't a diss on our part. It's it's when you're producing something, it's a learning experience to get customers' feedback, right? And even from the influencers and YouTube creators for content, none of the reviews I've sent out to you guys have ever been pitched or told what to put in there, which I feel really proud of. And a lot of people think that it's just they shill it, but honestly every review has been whatever the content creator thinks of it. So
which was my experience with you as well. Like when you shipped me one, I asked you like, okay, is there anything specific about it you want me to mention? And you said nope, just open it up and have fun with it, and then make a video, like do whatever you want. So that's what I did. And I mean, it's a good product, so it's hard to find fault in it. And all the little things that you've mentioned, like screw holes being off or anything like that, like it's nothing that ruins the experience of using the product. Like I had that same thing where like the extension to the motherboard was just like a little tight in terms of how close it was to the GPU mounting bracket. But I mean, like we tinker with bigs, like that's what we do, like
exactly.
miners. So like it took 1 minute to just loosen the screws a little bit, move it forward 1/4 of a millimeter, and then screw it back in, and it fit beautifully. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean that was that was the end of my negative experience of the Octominer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just add one comment here on Alex's thing. You said that we don't know everything about certain things we produce. When it comes to the technical aspect, we fully know 100% everything. When it comes to technical specifications and requirements, sometimes there are certain small things, just as an example, of not knowing everything when producing it is now our latest batch. We ship it with the handles not screwed onto the case, but we have the case handles now with an extra bracket, with an L bracket attaching to the sides. And why we do this is to minimize the shipping damage, because the package can be a little bit big, and sometimes some lazy delivery couriers at some process end up maybe rough handling it a bit. And then when it falls perhaps on the ground, the case, and the handle is already screwed on it. The handle is the most further extruded part of the case, and it will take the brunt of the fall on it right away. and might take a hit on the corner. But now we have the handles, removed, put in a little box inside of the main box. And, if the case should fall on the corner during delivery or rough handled on the corner, it's not going to be a single point of the handle that's going to take the force, but it's going to get evenly distributed around like the thick foam padding we have around the case. So just like as a simple, example of, the small kind of, improvements we can, continually make on the cases.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I understand what you're both saying. Like, of course, you know what you're doing when it comes to the technical aspect, but like,
I'm just a little bit OCD, and I felt
no, that's fine.
But I get what
for correcting me.
Yeah, I get what you're saying too, though. Alex, is like, what you are listening to customer feedback on is the customer experience of using the product. Which isn't about anything technical, but rather just like the actual experience of handling the product, right? And I think that is really encouraging to hear as a consumer, that I'm being listened to, and that you have your sort of ear to the pulse of the community, because that shows that you're looking to make a product that's for your customers. And I mean, that is really, really nice to hear. And we're picking the winner for the last Octominer swag bag here. So Austin Biss, congratulations, you're the winner of the last swag bag. So we're just gonna double check that you are following Octominer on Twitter, and congratulations. Should we move on to, I think we have a couple more questions, sure. And then we can wrap up. So
let's do it.
A couple of fun little questions here was, are you planning any other sizes or any other sort of variations of your cases? So I got one question was like, are you planning to do them in any other colors? I mean, are you?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, we've had some customers like modify their cases. I mean, Alex shared with me a customer had, taken quite a lot of effort and like made it, blue and yellow. And, it was definitely a very striking, color scheme he had chosen. And I mean, he had done a really good job in the execution of it. When it comes to other colors, we are open to potentially, doing like a limited, release, something like that. I mean, if the community has some cool ideas, if they want to, make a certain kind of color scheme or some graphics or something like that, I don't know, we can do just as a fun idea, the Mandalorian case, we choose, like a green or something, and do the, the Mandalorian graphics on it. I mean, that could look pretty cool, I'm not sure we're allowed to sell it as the Mandalorian case, but we can certainly do an homage, of it, and, sell it like it is. So, I mean, if the community, has a strong, demand or a wish, or something that they'd like to see, we can do that, make a small, limited run, a few hundred, pieces, something like that could, look cool. So we're open to it. We're always happy to hear our community and customer feedback, even if they have, something to say that, perhaps they weren't, happy with a certain part or aspect or something like that. We always listen to them, try to, improve and, incorporate the feedback and, always continually improve on it. But size-wise, I think, the 12 and the 8, they are, a good size. I mean, in terms of cost efficiency and density, the 12, is the more cost-efficient solution per GPU slot. The 8 is the more versatile. It can take a thicker GPU. It has more power per GPU. So it kind of covers, the needs, that the customer have. Nobody really wants like a 1 or 2 GPU mining case. I mean, you just put it in your regular desktop computer and use there. And, what's the point to make a 4 or 5, you'll end up spending a lot of money on the case, the fans, all of that doesn't make, sense anymore in terms of, you have to spending almost the same amount for like a 6 GPU case that you would for an 8 GPU, right? You're gonna get the 8 GPU case in that sense.
Yeah, I think it comes down to just like almost like physics, right? Like anything smaller than an 8 GPU case doesn't really make sense, because then it's like you just get a couple GPUs and it's full and you need another one already. But then
exactly.
with 12, it's like if you were to figure out a way to make a 14 or 16 GPU, like it would be prohibitively big, like where it's like hard to get it through a door, or like.
Yeah, then it's gonna be a two-man, case, like pretty much, or unless you got really long arms and or really strong guy. But otherwise, also, if you add more than 12 GPUs, you're gonna start having some driver compatibility issues. 12 is actually the maximum amount you can use for normal GPUs, usually without having any compatibility issues. And also, 12 is the amount of PCIe lanes you get from the chipset, usually on like an Intel, B250 chipset or something like that. So each of the GPU slots, you need like one lane, and usually the first lane gets an X16 link directly from the CPU. So that's another thing that potentially limits. You could do a 13 GPU, one is the X16 direct link from the CPU, and then you get 12 X1 links from the chipset. But there's no point really, because then you run into the compatibility issues and the case becomes too long. And 12 is, the optimal amount for like a max amount of GPUs per case, if, just taking, all of this into account.
Yeah. Plus it just gets into shipping complications, additional pricing, re-engineering our packaging. And it's just like, we've had revisions for packaging for the X12, the X8 Ultra, and the X8 Plus. Those are kind of dialed in, and like we said, we're adding tweaks to each batch from feedback. But yeah, to add like another one, you kind of would sacrifice, and then you would have shipping costs go up, and then just and I know this might lead into the question about the vertical versus
I was just about to
yeah, so yeah, and Panda and I talked about this before he did that video, and I know he goes over depending on the weight of the GPU, and it totally varies. But if you look at I know Miner Dude has some pictures on his site right now, and we're gonna use some of those. His warehouse, he has them all vertical, right? And we're probably going to be updating some of our professional photos on our site too, with maybe some client photos of large data centers that have hundreds of these. Most of them are all vertical. A lot of the home miners do horizontal just because it's easy, right? All my 5 are horizontal. And it really just depends on the type of GPU, the weight, if they're sagging, and I think he did a really good job of kind of displaying that for the home miner community of kind of just getting started, or if you already own one, if you prop it up, what's it going to happen? So it's a good question, and my engineered, it's not really a large issue at all, and Harry has a lot more experience with this, having vertical cases, so I'll kind of just hand it over to him and he can give his 2 cents too.
Yeah, I mean, running these, rigs vertical, meaning, on the side, up, so to say, and, stacking them, from left to right, on, multi-level shelving is usually the most efficient way that, our large-scale customers deploy them. And it doesn't have any issues. It's totally fine to use that. We got plenty of customers running, farms of 3080s, even 3090s in them like that. The GPU sagging issue is not really an issue. I mean, it's as much of an issue as your gaming GPU in a regular, case. I mean, it might only be an issue if you have some extra super special edition card that is like 3.5, slot width, and with like some really heavy radiator, and that's not the card you're going to use in your mining case anyway, because those cards carry a premium. And, you can easily put, triple slot EVJs or, founders editions, lay them all, 12 GPUs in a row and stack the case vertically. No problems at all with it. That's actually the preferred way to deploy when it comes to, large scale mining farms. You can, see on our website as well, if you go on the main page, the top, header background video, we have a video of, one of our own farms there, and you can see it's all stacked vertically.
Yeah, I think as a residential miner, laying it down is just the easier way of placing it somewhere.
Absolutely. For the home miner, horizontal, a very good point. That's usually the easier way. People have the space, lie it down, then if you want to pull it out, to access it or maintenance, might make it a little bit easier as well.
Yeah. All right, so we're picking the first winner of the first 8 GPU Octominer here, and the winner is Crypto and Tech. Congratulations, man. We're just gonna double check that you follow Octominer on Twitter, and if you do, congratulations, you just won yourself an Octominer 8 GPU server case. Oh yeah, this was a super quick question. Someone was wondering what other parts do I need to get for the Octominer when I get it, and basically the answer is you need to get your own GPUs, and that's about it.
That's correct. Yeah, you need your own GPUs, and you also need the power cable that plugs in, from your wall to our PSU, 4 PSU or 3 PSU adapter cable that we include. So you can, we have 3 server PSUs on the X12, 4 server PSUs on the X8, which all do current sharing, which are designed to share current and which work like that. And if you want to hook them up with a single cable, we include that adapter, but the cable running from your wall or your PDU into that adapter is something we don't provide because, there's several different types of PDU outlets, as well as, home, wall outlets or mining facility outlets. So we wouldn't be able to, to provide a suitable cable for any miner that is universally, compatible, as it is dependent on what kind of outlet you have in your facility, your home, on your PDU.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yes.
One of those
only
things. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And yeah, otherwise, you only need the GPUs to add, and the final power cable from your PDU to our mining rig.
Yeah, because those power cables, it's such an easy thing to get your hands on, wherever you live. As the customer, but it's a really difficult thing for you guys to provide as the manufacturer. So it just makes no sense. I'm guessing you knock off a couple of dollars of the price because you don't have to include that, and then it's a couple of dollars for me to buy that from my local hardware store, and it's just an easier way of handling that whole thing. Another question. Oh, sorry.
If there was sorry, just to add here, if there was a one-size-fits-all solution, we'd be happy to provide it. But at the moment, we need to provide, 5 different, cables essentially. Yeah. And that would, push the case weight actually quite a bit, higher, the shipping, and it would just create a lot of e-waste on top as well, because what you choose one cable out of the 5 and throw the rest, the 4 rest away. So, we would really like to include that to our customers, but it just, doesn't, make sense for us to, include it the way everything is at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, we're picking the winner of the second 8 GPU Octominer here, and that is 𝗧-𝗦𝗡𝗏 or 𝗧-𝗦𝗡𝗏. Sorry if I don't know how to pronounce that. And yeah, we're just gonna double check that you are following Octominer, and you just won yourself an Octominer X8. Congratulations. Someone asked if you have any experience with putting air filters in front of the fans.
We have had some experience, and that's something, we've experimented a bit. We haven't created any kind of, product that we have sold, but we've made some prototypes where, you put kind of.
I think the question was more about is that something the customer themselves can do, or is it detrimental to the operation of the server case?
They can do it. Depending on, the filter they use. If they just use a regular kind of fine, mesh filter, it's not going to add too much restriction. Maybe they need to run their fan 5% higher, maybe 10% higher, because it certainly will add some resistance, to the intake airflow. But if they're going to add something like, a corrugated, multi-layer, filter in the front, then, if maybe they could run their fans at 50% before, they might need to run their fans at 80%, for example, to make up for the resistance on the input there. But no problem, if customers want to put an air filter in front of it, absolutely, they can do that. It's not going to break anything. It's not going to overheat the fans. It's going to, just add a little bit of resistance and just have to tweak the fan speed.
And what I'll say to that too is, if you do choose to do that, make sure you clean those out regularly so they don't get just stuffed up with dust to the point where they're not letting any airflow through.
Absolutely.
Anymore.
Yeah. If they gunk up, they're not going to be, doing any good.
Okay, so we're picking the winner of the first X12 Octominer case, and that is that one guy, 𝗧. Congratulations. We're just gonna double check that you are actually following Octominer on Twitter, and if you are, you just won yourself an Octominer X12 Ultra. Congratulations. I believe I just have one last question, and that is, and actually I think I watched someone do this recently. It's about replacing the power supplies in the Octominer with different power. Was that the 𝗕𝗫𝗛𝗔 video, possibly, where he tried that? So if I remember correctly, what happened was he tried to slot in, a 750 watt power supply together with an 800 watt or so, and I believe what he found was that the Octominer was smart enough to sort of split the power between the power supplies sort of in relation to how much was available on them. So if you had one 600 and one 1200, it would pull twice as much from the 1200 as it did the 600. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, let's just take it as an example. You put like a 1200 watt PSU or a 600 watt. You have one 1200 watt, one 600 watt PSU, and then you run the rig at, let's say, 1200 watts. What happens is then your PSU will be like balanced out in the sense that the PSUs will load share evenly. And it's not like going to be that, your 600 watt PSU is going to be maxed out to the max, giving out 600 watts, and then the 1200 watt is giving 600 as well, if you're running the total at 1200 watts, output in that sense. What's instead going to happen is that the 600 watt one is going to give out 300 watts, and then the 1200 one will give out 900 watts probably. It might fluctuate a little bit, but power supplies, how we've made the backplane and everything is to make sure the current load share in between, the power supplies is as even as possible. And, the pinouts and everything is properly connected, and also the power delivery backplane and how the GPU cables are connected there are for the most even, possible current sharing between all the power supplies. But usually, we send the rigs, they have like either 3 750s, 3200 watts, or like, 4 750s, all of the same, type and wattage, PSUs. And those, they will current share like really accurately. You'll have maybe like 10, 20 watt difference between the PSUs, and it's very accurate.
Amazing. That's the end of my questions for you guys that I took from the audience. So do you guys have anything else you'd like to speak about, or anything you'd like to add?
Well, it kind of sounded like, I was tooting my own horn a lot here, it's not, that I wanted to, promote the max out of it. It's just that we're really, proud and happy about our product and the quality, and just trying to, break it down as technically as I can, and give, a really in-depth explanation of, how what works, why is it designed, what's the differences, and so on. So, I hope I didn't really, come off like I was like, tooting my own horn here all the time. I just wanted to give as an in-depth explanation as I could about, all the topics, because as the CTO, I'm involved with, all the hardware developments and the improvements, on the product. And I'm just really, excited, to share, the details about it, in depth, and, why, we do certain things, like this or that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're passionate about your product, which you should be. So, I mean, I think that makes total sense, and that's what we want to hear. Like, we want to hear someone who speaks well of their product and has a lot to say about it, because it shows that you care about your product. So, I don't think anyone's gonna hold that against you in any way.
Yeah, happy to hear that. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that just in case at the end here. But yeah, absolutely. We're very passionate about what we do, And we strive to be the top GPU mining rig supplier, manufacturer, in terms of quality and customer support. I really take it personally in the sense to make sure that all our customers are satisfied and happy, and we go the extra mile to take care of them.
Cool.
I think for me that it's more just about, it's also about just being transparent too. So I just really appreciate the people that aren't afraid to reach out or contact me directly about feedback. As Harry said, we do want to provide a good experience, but also it's really just about the customer, and I really want to make ourselves available to the whole community, right? So I'm on Discord every day. We have our ticket system, email, and I really enjoy when we're able to get a chance to do these collaborations with you guys on YouTube. And I really appreciate just all the feedback you guys give us. So, just wanted to throw that out there. So we welcome you guys to give us positive and negative feedback. Like we don't want to shy away from anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's anybody out there, with Octominer rigs that are unhappy with them, just contact us, let us know. We'll figure out, why you're unhappy. We'll provide a solution. If there's anybody that, for some reason didn't get, perhaps they bought it from a distributor or reseller, something like that, didn't get a spare part, in time, whatever reason, just contact us, let us know. We'll take care of you. We'll make sure that you're happy, because, that's really important for us.
And we're picking the winner of another X12 Ultra Octominer case here, and that is 𝗦𝗡𝗏54. So we're gonna check that you are actually following Octominer on Twitter, and if you are, congratulations, you just won yourself an Octominer X12 Ultra. Just as a wrap up here, I thought I'd ask you guys, do you have anything exciting coming up in the near future? Anything that you can share with us that's on the horizon for Octominer?
We have some, cool stuff coming out that's, maybe not only focused purely for mining. We have a full enterprise, range, product selection coming out, as I shortly mentioned in the beginning of the video. So, proof of stake coming along, Ethereum mining, how long it's going to last, those are all, the important questions that the mining community is asking. What's going to happen once you can't mine Ethereum anymore? What are people going to do with all their GPUs? Are any of the other altcoins going to sustain all of the hash rate? I mean, only time will tell what exactly is going to happen, but certainly one of the other, outlets for putting your GPUs into use to make you money, and perhaps even make you more money and revenue compared to mining, is the alternate use case, cloud computing, rendering, all kinds of, machine learning, distributed compute jobs. And that's something a regular mining rig can't cut it anymore, because you need faster networking, you need, more memory, faster CPU, SSDs, all of that stuff, to be able to, provide, that kind of a service. For example, like platforms like Vast AI and Octominer, and a few other ones, we're working with them also to be able to provide a new service after, potentially GPU mining isn't anymore like as mainstream, or once Ethereum goes to proof of stake, or there's another more profitable, way to put your GPUs into use. So that's when the enterprise server range is going to come into play. Dual EPYC AMD CPUs, single EPYC. We also have Intel Xeon based, solution with PCI bridge, chipset with a PLX chip that can able to, share, PCI links between more GPUs and still providing, fast output by, essentially, limiting and navigating the traffic, in the PCI lanes, where it needs to go. So we have several, versions of these servers coming out, starting from, let's say the lower end, more basic end, that is maybe not like an AMD EPYC Gen 4, compatible CPU and hardware, but it's like a previous generation, like a Xeon, E5 V3 CPU, which is still pretty fast and you can get them cheap. And that kind of platform, where perhaps that could provide a better cost-efficient solution for rendering. But for some other platforms, maybe they need to, go full out, put dual EPYCs, in them, load them up with, 4 terabytes of RAM, 𝗖𝗎𝗓𝗍𝗓 quad Gen 4 SSDs, running at max speed. So we'll have a very, let's say wide range of products and like platform. We have a universal kind of, server power delivery, GPU backplane, storage backplane solution that we will offer in different, 4U and 2U, mostly focusing on the 4U height, 19-inch servers that we will be able to configure any way the customer wants. And this is something that's essentially similar to like, Supermicro, HP, Dell, Inspur, ASRock, perhaps GPU server offerings. But what we can do is we can be more flexible in how you configure it, and we will be able to provide a more cost-efficient solution as well. So, that's something, we're really excited about to come out with. We've been working on this already for, like 2 years roughly on, all of the development for the hardware, because it's much more complex, especially when it comes to PCI Express Gen 4 and Gen 5, because, at Gen 4 you have the PCI, bandwidth doubled from Gen 3, and Gen 5, doubles on top of Gen 4. So the signal integrity for the link is something, you have to really take care of to make sure you reach full bandwidth. So we are pretty excited to come up with that. And hopefully this can be something that we can provide value to the community, where they can put their GPUs into use when, perhaps they can't mine anymore Ethereum, and these alternative platforms where you can rent out your compute power at your home, or perhaps you send your, GPUs to a data center, host it there and rent it out from there. This is, I see potentially, the future of what might happen to, a large majority of, the GPUs mining Ethereum right now. Obviously, it's going to take some time for these platforms to scale, for the open marketplace, to be able to expand, to allow, all of these GPUs to go there and profitably operate and, rent them out. Render, RNDR, token. Another one, that's at some point kind of come out with the public, release, where people, might be able to, rent their servers and GPUs out and maybe even earn more profits than mining. So this is something very, that we're very excited about, and something that we will see. We will launch this, I would say Q3 this year. We've already opened our pilot project, you might say, for some of our large scale customers. We've already deployed hundreds of these kind of servers, and we're like finishing some small tweaks on the server design and the marketing and all of that. And that's some pretty exciting stuff that we will come out in a few months. So we'll be sure to send you one of the first servers so you can get some hands-on as well, Seb.
Cool.
I'm sure you'll be excited to do some tests with it and share with the community, what kind of numbers you can get there, what kind of earnings perhaps if you put it on some kind of other platforms to rent it out instead of just mining. So that's something I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, some of what you said, I'm not gonna lie, it went over my head just now. But what that does tell me is that you guys definitely have your eyes on the future in terms of what can be good for both your customers and to keep the sort of spirit of computing profitable for those customers. And that is great to hear, in my opinion. And as you say, we're all, there is the big question mark of what will happen to mining after ETH goes proof of stake. And it's really reassuring in a way that you are looking beyond mining in terms of what we can do with our hardware after that happens. Because of course there will still be mining, there's still other coins to mine, but the fact that you're opening up for other avenues as well in terms of cloud computing, machine learning, all of that stuff, that is really exciting and something that I hadn't thought much about, to be honest with you. So really excited to see what you guys come up with there, and what you have for us in the future. So yeah, unless there's anything else, thank you guys so much. This has been a really good conversation. I've learned a lot. I'm sure my audience will have learned possibly even more if they were able to sit through this whole thing, which I think they should have, because this was extremely informational and interesting. So that's it. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here on your channel, Seb. You know, you can let us know anytime if you want to set up another stream, or your client base, your viewer base has some extra questions, something they want to ask. I mean, positive or negative. We're always happy to come on here and have a discussion. It's really good to have this talk with you, as well as you have people asking you questions, and perhaps some of these questions were something that I hadn't considered before, and to hear them, to discuss about them and to take that all into consideration, that it's fantastic. So yeah, super happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Seb.
All right. That's it.
Okay. Have a great one over there.
All right. If you liked this video, then please give it one of these. And if you really liked it, you can now join the channel to help support what I do here. It really does make a difference, and it means a lot to me. But what you got to do now is you got to click on the next video on the screen. Because this video is over, you can also click the picture of my face to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, go click on that next video, and I'll see you there. Goodbye. Goodbye, bye, bye.